Okay, for this last demo on security, I'm just going to tie everything together, and I'm going to show you how you can use the ASP.NET Core Authorize attribute to implement checks to see if a user is a member of the administrator role. All right, here we are in the application, and we are not logged in right now. We've got some links across the top: person, lookup, user, and security summary. If we go to user, we can go in. If we go to security summary, we can go in. If we go to person, we can go into this too. We can do all these things if we're not logged in. But if we go to lookup detects that we're not logged in and prompts us to log in. In this case, I'm running using local development mode. So if I go to local development, log in as admin, then it lets me go to the lookup editor. If I log out and I log in again as a non-admin user and then go to lookup, it also is going to request that I log in because I'm not authorized. And the way that this is implemented is it's using the authorize attribute from ASP.NET Core. Let's go take a look. So let's go to controllers and we'll go to lookup controller. And on this controller, we have an authorize attribute set, and this authorize is hooked up to a policy. And this policy is the isAdministrator policy. Let's go down to startup.cs, do a control F for policy, and we've got a policy created for isAdministrator. And we've got this thing here that says it's for role authorization requirement. So policies in ASP.NET Core have two parts: a requirement that implements authorization requirement. This holds the configuration about the requirement. So in this case, what role is required to satisfy this policy? And then there's a second part, the handler. So we have a role authorization handler. This extends from a class from ASP.NET Core called authorization handler. It takes a type T, which is the requirement that it's supposed to work off of. So in this case, role authorization requirement. Remember, there's two pieces to a policy. There's the requirement and the handler. And then in the handler, we implement this method, handle requirement async. So in here, we use a utility object that I've created called security utility. We hook security utility up to the current user. That gets access to their claims. And then we say is in role. That checks the claims for the current user and says, is it a member of that role? That role, remember, is the one we set up on the requirement, saying it has to be an admin. If they're in role, we call context.succeed. If they're not authorized, we call context.fail. And that right there, this add policy, hooks that all together. So that at runtime, when we run into an authorized policy that has that same policy name, it's going to use that configured value from startup.cs and trigger that role handler. Let's add a breakpoint and run this code, and I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, right now we are not logged in as anybody, so let's go to lookup. It triggers that handle requirement async. Populate the security utility, and let's go to is in role. And if we hover over role name, we see we're expecting role name easyauth_demo.admin. It returns false, so we issue a context.fail, and that takes us to our login page. Let's do a login as an administrator, and now we're back on that handle requirement async. This time is in role for admin succeeds, so we're going to call context.succeed, and we're in. If I want to take this away, I can go to my user admin, go to the admin user account. Let's delete that role. We'll save, and now let's go back to lookup again. We hit the breakpoint. We're no longer a member of that role, so we fail. This same thing works in production, so let me just do a demo of this in production. I'm going to click login. I'm going to log in as my AAD account. I'm logged in, and let me go to security summary. So in security summary, I have the claim that says I'm a member of the admin role. So if I go to lookup, that lets me in. And if I go to user and get rid of that permission and go back to lookup again, it says I'm not authorized. Now, one thing you might have noticed is that the user editor does not require you to log in. You probably don't want to do that in a real production application, but it's real handy for doing demos. So anyway, that's how we hook that together. We use a policy-based authorization, put that attribute on the controller, describe the policy inside of startup.cs, and then we have a role authorization handler, and this is the code that represents that policy execution. And this policy stuff, this is ASP.NET Core in general. It doesn't have anything to do with Azure App Service Security, but it works nicely with Azure App Service Security if you're using middleware and you're populating your claims like I've showed you so far in this course. So that's that.